We figured it out in how quickly? 10 minutes into the chat. We're already behind schedule. So let's get started. Hello, everyone of the internet. Welcome to GenCon 2020. This is the first of what's going to be many streams. Eventually going to bring up the schedule in a hot second. But basically, the long story short is that GenCon is a show that normally happens in Indianapolis every August 1st. And we are in that moment due to COVID-19. That show is happening digitally. Normally we would have an exhibit booth. We'd be demoing all of the games that we're coming out with. Specifically battle bosses, which we'll get into and kind of start previewing in a second. Because this is now happening digitally, we're doing this through a bunch of different live streams of gameplay and conversations. I'm going to share the screen now that shows you what is... here we go. Go live. So now this should show off the schedule as a thing. So let me bring this back up to full screen. There we go. So now everyone can see it. And the schedule is this. And so basically, we are doing a bunch of different content this weekend. Right now, this is a Thursday morning. So Battleboss's production update and Gen Con schedule walkthrough. This is the old one. Here we go. Let's just open this image and hopefully that works. Nope, that's a link. All right, so basically 9 a.m., 12 p.m., Gen Con scheduled walkthrough. That's what we're doing right now. In about any moment now, we're going to walk everyone through what our next Kickstarter is going to be. So to give a little bit of background, about in end of 2018, we did a game called Battlebosses. The artwork for Ryu, Dragon Goddess is on the left from that game. That game comes out this October for backers and then November for everyone else this fall, basically, right before winter. And, you know, we're now ramping up on what our next project is going to be. Battlebosses with this huge endeavor. It's something we've never done before with tons of different sculpts and different characters and different packaging formats. And it's been a pretty complicated process that also has happened in moments of COVID, plus tariffs, plus all these other things happening in the world right now. So it's been a much more challenging project. So one of the other things we're looking at for our next Kickstarter is a little bit something that we have a little bit of a better background in. So we're excited to kind of announce that. We'll then, at noon today, we'll be doing a BattleBoss production update, kind of walking through where we are on everything. As I mentioned, it's been kind of a long process getting BattleBosses to market. And so we have kind of want to show everywhere where everything is at, get a really kind of detailed look into the exact moment we're at right now with BattleBosses so that people can get an idea on what the world looks like at the moment. And then this afternoon, or 6 p.m. Eastern time, 3 p.m. Pacific time, we'll be doing our first gameplay, which is showing off Alana, Fae Empress, which was a boss that was unlocked actually after the Kickstarter, as kind of part of the production process. Realized A, we had space for an 8th boss, and B, as kind of an apology for how long it took to kind of get this out, we wanted to add an additional character that would be available to everyone from the game. So Alana will be the first gameplay that we show off, and then over the weekend, or continuing tomorrow morning, we'll be doing a Masters of Modern podcast Q&A hosted by me, Ben, and Michael, where we're going to walk through kind of the design process, how the game happened, the whole history of BattleBosses, to kind of walk people through, especially people that haven't been a part of this process up to this point, to kind of walk them through it. And then we'll be premiering the Nightmare live gameplay, which will be the first time. So that was the boss that was unlocked at the very last day of the Kickstarter, as the Kickstarter was finalizing. We'll then do some more BattleBosses live gameplay after that of just like different bosses and how they play. And then we're doing a live interview with the creators of the Contra board game. So we're partnered with a company called Blacklist Games. They do a bunch of cool co-op dungeon crawly based games. A lot of them based on like 80s properties involved, like Miami Vice to Street Fighter to kind of those type of games. And we partner with them licensing the Contra license for Konami, and we're doing a board game with them, and they were kind of the designers behind it and wanted to kind of walk through that as they launched that for pre-order for the first time at Gen Con this weekend. And then on Saturday, we'll be premiering the 2v2 arena mode, which is a live gameplay of the 2v2 kind of mode that was based around MOBAs like League of Legends or Dota. And so that is like a team-based, there's neutral camps, you're defending a base versus doing one-on-one gameplay. That'll be followed up with just more live gameplay And then on Sunday, we'll do Kess Games AMA, where me and Michael and other people from Kess Games will be on, and we'll be answering any questions from chat. Not that we won't be doing that over the weekend, but more of a formalized moment to do that, and just hang out. And then we'll do a Battle Bosses free-for-all multiplayer live gameplay. Maybe that'll also include some more gameplay of 2v2 arena mode if that's popular. And then we'll be replaying at the end of Sunday to kind of close the show out the big 3v3 replay we did during the Kickstarter that has like Ben Bateman in it and Andrew Guy and me and a few other people that were having a good time. And it's this fun kind of example of what the larger 3v3 gameplay looks like. And so that's kind of the schedule for the weekend. There's a lot of cool content. We might throw some other stuff, so definitely stay tuned. The idea is to stream this both on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook, and kind of go through that whole process as we kind of show everyone. That's kind of the idea. I'm going to move over.
Alex,
yes.
You forgot something that we should have done at the beginning, but you just jumped right into it. Who are these people that are on everyone's screen?
Oh, I'm Alex
you?
Kessler.
And who am I? And who's this other guy?
I am Alex Kessler. I am the president of Kess, host of the Masters of Modern podcast, and designer of Battle Bosses. And next to me is Michael Grothy. He is the co-designer on Battle Bosses, heads up kind of game design at Kess, as well as other things, and is joined by his puppy Peanut next to him. And then
I definitely thought for a moment there you were introducing me as Michael's puppy, and I was like.
And then there's Sam, Michael's second puppy. Sam will be helping over the weekend with doing moderation. He also is in charge of kind of sales as far as the games line is at Kess, and is here to be helpful and talk through stuff as well. So that's who you see on screen. We'll have a slew of other kind of people jump in and out over the weekend during gameplay. Obviously, we're in a COVID moment, so like. Some of the gameplay is going to be me and my wife. Some of it's going to be with some of my siblings who we've been within our quarantine bubble. And then I think Sam will be joining me on Sunday for some of that gameplay as well. So there's definitely, it's interesting doing this in the world of COVID, but we are doing the best that we can, as is GenCon. One thing that is important is right now you can pre-order Battle Bosses. So I'm going to post a link to the Battle Bosses shop as we speak. Here we go. This is the BattleBoss single shop, so just go to the basic shop. At kess.co/shop, you can pre-order BattleBosses. So if you were not a part of the Kickstarter and are looking for access to that type of content, or you want to be able to kind of buy the game and be a part of it, we have it available right now for pre-order, and it'll ship in November. Is the plan. And so the shop link is currently posted in the YouTube and Twitch, and also just available everywhere. I think it's a link. If you look at everything, you can kind of find where you can pre-order and buy it as well. Yeah. So I'm going to really quickly share the stream. I'm going to stop streaming this window. And I guess question for Michael, can you kind of walk through people just like how Battleboss plays, like what the gameplay is like while I share stuff on the internet?
Sure. In Battle Bosses, you are playing some type of big monster or, robot or something like that. So, and you, on your turn, you'll roll dice to get resources. You get crystals and energy. And you use the energy to use your boss's abilities, which include moving around the board and making minion tokens, which can fight for you in your stead. And then you use the crystals to play cards from your hand. So on your turn, you got to use up all your energy. So you're going to move around the board, or you're going to make a bunch of minions, or both. And then your crystals carry over from turn to turn, so you can afford more expensive cards or set up for one big turn where you play a bunch of cards. And the cards will either have one-shot effects, those are called effects, and they will just destroy 3 minions or create 2 minions or, move your boss 5 spaces or something like that. And then there's upgrades, which stay on the battlefield, and sometimes they'll give you other abilities. So now instead of spending energy to just move and make minions, you can now spend your energy to, draw a card and discard a card, or now you can spend your energy to shoot a projectile that damages minions or bosses or whatever. And sometimes upgrades will just be like passive effects, like you can move 2 spaces instead of 1 now or whatever. And you are upgrading your boss as the game goes on, and you're trying to beat up the other boss. So typically, you play battle bosses 1 versus 1. You can play 3 or 4 player free for all. That is fun. We've tested it, and we will be showing it off on Sunday. In case anybody was wondering what multiplayer battle bosses look like, we also have as Alex mentioned on the schedule, a MOBA-inspired arena mode. So you can play that either 2 versus 2 or 3 versus 3. And it's a team setup with neutral objectives that you can defeat, neutral monsters that aren't on either team to get benefits for your team. So if you defeat one, maybe everybody on your team gets 2 energy on their next turn. So you can have like a big next turn where you do a lot of stuff. Every boss has an ultimate, which I think I forgot to mention. Every boss has an ultimate ability. All their cards are unique to each boss, and all their ultimate ability is unique. So each boss plays pretty differently. And we made sure that you can make cool team comps in the team modes, but also every boss can stand on their own. There's not somebody who's strictly a support who does nothing but heal. But there are bosses who can heal, and if you want to do that in the team game modes, you can. So that's battle bosses. It's really kind of 3 games, 1 versus 1, free for all multiplayer, and the arena mode, because they all feel pretty different. And we also, as part of the Kickstarter, had a terrain pack, so you could even make your own campaign or your own map to play on. We kind of we're big Magic the Gathering players, Alex and I, and so one thing we wanted to do with battle bosses that Magic does is we want to just provide a basic rule set and a bunch of components and tell you this is generally how you play. But one strength that Magic has, and we wanted to make sure that battle bosses could do this too, is that once you have this basic rule set and you have these components that you can use to play within the rule set, you can do your own thing. So you can now, you could create a different map that you play on, or you could create a different game mode that's free for all, except there's secret teams or something where it's you don't know which of the other 2 people are on your team, or you could play we figured that people would come up with some cool stuff, especially with the terrain pack that was part of the Kickstarter. So if you Kickstarted, you should still be able to go into BackerKit and get that. But if you didn't, we might be able to make it available. I don't know how Kickstarter works, but
yeah, so I can kind of explain that. So there's definitely stuff that is Kickstarter exclusive. So for instance, anyone who backed the Kickstarter is getting exclusive miniatures for all of the minion tokens. So each boss comes with minions. For most gameplay, you can just you're meant to kind of use the tokens that come with it. But if you're a Kickstarter backer, you were able to get access to the miniatures that were available. So that's something that's a little bit different for them. But stuff like the terrain pack and some of the neoprene stuff and stuff like that, the mats that you can play with, those will become available or will become part of tournament packs that we'll send to local game stores that will become more and more available as we get closer to release. Right now on the Kess website, the main 2 things you can buy are going to be either individual bosses, so you can buy Grakthar if you just want Grakthar, though you do need 2 bosses to play, so I recommend if you want Grakthar, you probably want to also grab Mechabot or another one of the other bosses.
Ability was important to us as well, where it's if you look at these 8 bosses that we have, and you are not into Cthulhu or whatever, or you're not into Samurai, you just pick the 2 that you are into. We have such a different cast of bosses with respect to different genres and play styles and stuff, that we figured people were going to buy the 2 that they wanted, and so we made sure you could do that. There's not a starter set that's always Grakthar versus Cthulhu. You can just pick the 2 that you want and buy them.
Right. And the idea is that you have kind of the ability to just mix and match worlds, right? You can have a pirate ghost pirate ship fight a robot from the future, or samurai fight Stranger Things-esque nightmare horror monsters from the void, right? So there's all these cool different ways of mixing and matching, and that was always really important for us. And also as we expand, right, something that we do have the reveal on this stream for the first time is new bosses and or the new bosses that will be coming out in Wave 2. We don't know exactly what the release schedule in Wave 2 is, but we do have kind of the artwork to show off what those characters will be, and that'll be happening in a quick second.
That's a secret reveal.
I know. That wasn't even
I didn't know that was
thing.
happening.
So we'll have some artwork to show for upcoming Battle Boss expansions, but that was kind of always the idea, right? Is that we can expand into new characters, new worlds, as new sets, and I think actually even up into the Kickstarter we have in different stages of design, 22 additional bosses that are possible depending on the success of the property and how well it does within the first wave. So that's something we're excited about. And then so you can buy individual bosses, or you can buy the deluxe version that does come up with all 8 bosses from Wave 1. And then it comes with all of the needed tools to play arena mode, including the double-sided large board that has the 3v3 map on one side and the 2v2 map on the other. All the neutral mini camp monsters that you need to be able to play arena mode, plus some extra tokens and other things just to kind of make it a little bit more manageable. And plus rule books and everything else in kind of that world. So you kind of get all this stuff needed to play this super fun League of Legends inspired game mode, kind of taking probably the 2 games I played the most over the last 2 decades being Magic and League of Legends and combining it in a cool way. Yeah, you can kind of see this is the 1v1 map. So this would be over here. You have this over here.
The thing that's interesting is we didn't design battle bosses to play like that. I know that because it's such a popular video game genre, there are quite a few board games that are coming out now that are we are going to set out to make a MOBA video game. We made this to be a one-on-one game.
Right.
And then as we were testing out different multiplayer variants to see what we kind of wanted to make, what we wanted to encourage people to play and include in the rulebook and stuff, playing it like that, it felt like you were playing a MOBA because you're you play your one character, you have a bunch of abilities, you're upgrading your character as the game goes on, and then eventually you win the game, and then the next game your character starts over. And that felt very MOBA to us when we were just playing 2 versus 2, just skirmish or whatever. And so we added we made the map look more MOBA-y, we added the neutral objectives, we added bases, and we were wow, this feels great. It was just by chance that we happened to make a great MOBA board game. Which I think is really funny.
Yeah. I mean, and we tried a campaign mode. There was a 1v1 mode that we were working on, or 1-player mode, where if you just bought a boss by itself, what does that look like? And it was the boss would fight against programmed minions, or you would be the minions fighting against a programmed boss, and it was okay. And it didn't ever work as successfully as we would hope. And as we kind of go into the future, we might work and develop and stuff. And we are hoping that fans and people that have the game come up with their own game modes, right? One of the reasons that we got into battle game design in the first place is we kind of did that with other games, right? So we would hope that if you can think of a way to do maybe a cool RPG campaign using the tools provided by a single boss, that would be something we'd love to hear from fans and people that are playing the game. Now, the last thing I want to talk about, or the one thing I want to talk about before going into the next kind of conversation is showing off the 3 new boss artwork that we have to show people, which is right here. And hopefully this works the way I want it to. Bam! All right. So we have 3 new pieces of artwork to show off. These are the 3 this shows up in the rulebook. This is what we'd consider part of the first 3 bosses we're revealing as part of Wave 2. There's a little bit of secrecy here. So technically, this is 2 bosses and 1 minion. Sam, can you guess, since you know the least amount of this, the 3 of us, which one is the minion and which ones are the bosses?
Well, my first instinct, as conditioned by years and years of JRPGs as I have been, is that surely the ooze is the minion, and the other 2 are more important than oozes.
But Sam, what are these tiny oozes coming out of the big ooze?
Oh no! Are those the oozes minions?
So that would be the ooze and slime. So that would be an incorrect guess. So it ends up that actually the witch is the minion, and then there is a mysterious boss that we were not revealing today. That she will be being led by. And then we have an Egypt themed the Sphinx, who currently has a Reanimator game plan, and we're working on that as well. So there's all these really cool different gameplay styles that are different than what currently exists. But these are kind of a first sneak peek into what could be in Wave 2 when we eventually release Wave 2 of Battle Bosses.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, and those are all bosses that are in development, but this is what they look like.
So going back to the top of the game, and then the last piece that we're going to work on or kind of show you today is what Kess's next Kickstarter is going to be. Let me make sure we got everything in the schedule because we went over the schedule, right?
We are behind schedule, but it's okay.
Yes. But yeah, because we have a big break.
Anybody who showed up at 9:15 hoping to hear about our next Kickstarter is probably still here. It hasn't been too long.
Yep, we're good. All right, so the next Kickstarter is kind of the next thing. I'm going to stop sharing screens. Michael and Sam thinks you all saw all of that, but when I click off of Discord, they actually no longer can see what I was streaming to you. So you got to see the schedule, but they didn't. So as I mentioned kind of at the beginning of the cast for people that are tuning in now, we had obviously Battle Bosses with this huge endeavor, right? We have these really complicated sculpts. We have multiple bosses that come out. There's different packaging formats. People are buying stuff in different formats. So some people bought just individual bosses. Some people bought the big bosses. So it's this huge production endeavor, especially for a company like us who had never done something in the kind of the miniature sculpt game world.
Plus a lot of our add-ons for the Kickstarter and stretch goals and stuff was even more production than we would have needed had we just released this in stores or on our website or something, right? The nature of Kickstarter meant that there was way more production of stuff than we were even ready for when we set out to make a game.
And so that it's been kind of an interesting ride, and at the same time last year there were tariffs, so that put delays on things because we had scheduled figured out how much it was supposed to cost, and then that looked like it was going to actually make it really hard to accomplish, and then we figured out a solution for that, and then as we figured out a solution for that, COVID happened in China, so then that delayed the kind of conversation on tooling on our end, and then COVID happened here, which added delays to everything. But now this long road, we're now finally, tooling is being cut. We are moving forward. This should, all things are pointing to this being released in the U.S. on schedule, or on the new schedule this October, November. But with all that being said, we wanted to do something that was a little bit more within the Kess framework that is in the gaming space and something that people have been really responding to, but is something that we can do quickly, right? Something that we'll be able to. The plan is to launch the Kickstarter in February, and then as soon as Chinese New Year is done, and as soon as the Kickstarter is done, end of February, so starting in March, we can literally put orders in and be able to deliver by summer.
If any of you had clicked the Kesco shop link that we posted earlier, you can pre-order Battle Bosses there, and you can pre-order Super Party Battle Pong, which is our kind of party Pong drinking game, but you could play it with water or whatever. So there's games there, which is what you're all here for. But you'll notice that there's also a lot of Spring Summer outdoor toys. We have jump ropes and hoops and dice. Toy dice, that type of stuff, right? So that is a lot of what we do, and that is something we have a lot more experience doing. So the Drop Dots D20 is kind of the intersection of the gaming space that we're passionate about and the toy space that we know how to execute.
Yeah, and you can see here, we've been doing Drop Dot Dice for years now, and one of the big successes we've had at every Gen Con is just we've had this kind of kid focused cool gaming accessories for people, and people really respond to it. So but we get comments on can we do 2-packs. So right now you can buy actually a Kess Drop Dot Dice 2-pack. The colors are random, so what colors you get is a little bit of a mystery game, but you can get two squishy Drop Dot Dice. So
with these dice, it's every kid who comes by has to grab it, and pretty much half of all adults who come by have to grab it, and they have to be what is this? It feels very cool, and it's fun to roll because they bounce around, but because they're cubes, they bounce around all weird, and they're super fun.
speaking as an adult who saw them for the first time and probably felt like I had to grab them and try rolling them, I can vouch for the accuracy of that statement.
Yes, and this is a project that we'll be able to do pretty. And so we've then, for more just our own purposes, because we're gamers, tried looking at other stuff to put dots on, and we put them on, and I have them behind me. These giant D20s, and this is actually the first one we ever did.
Yeah, we do like a lot of factory tests for future products and stuff, so we just kind of tell our factory that puts the dots on dice and balls and jump rope handles and whatever else, we were like, try this, And it turned out really cool, and we started bringing it to shows just as kind of a display piece, and so many people tried to buy it that we were like, we should figure out a way to sell this. So
yes.
That's what the Kickstarter is.
Yeah, so one of the challenges is that, Kickstarter... For these type of products, that, at retail, you are looking at something that is probably a little bit too expensive for them. Like, right, these are going to be a $20 giant D20. They're about the size of my head. Normally, a drop dot dice you can see on the website for a 2-pack is $8. So you have a kind of a different cycle of how stuff looks, and so we wanted to make sure we were able to kind of get this out to people, but we've had people steal some of the demos from our booths at game shows. We had them at Gamma, and people were just, in general, extremely excited about them. And so, obviously, we start with these clear ones because we wanted to see the dots underneath the D20s that we were able to get, and then we were able to kind of figure out that if you do bright colors, they're big enough at this size that you can do the full numbers. And so, these jumbo D20s are the plan for our next Kickstarter. And I will actually provide a link in chat so that people can see the place they can sign up for updates.
And one of the reasons we're mentioning like our experience in toys is because this is something that should be very easy for us to accomplish. Battle Bosses was like outside our comfort zone on purpose because we really wanted to make a game that was like kind of a hard strategy game, and we wanted to get it done the right way. And it took a lot of time and a lot of learning on our part, not to mention, world events kind of conspired against us. But we're shipping, these dice, the small dice, as well as balls that are drop dotted. I mean, we're shipping them like every week out of China. So it's not that difficult for us to get these produced in a way that it was for Battle Bosses, where there was a lot of complication with like, new tooling and new factories and negotiating price and
for Battle Bosses we had to create an entire production line for Kess from scratch, right? That's right. The small difference, and that's something different with them with drop dot dice, which is something that we wanted to come out with that is an easy single launch that we can deliver upon quickly, because we know that the dice were, or Battle Bosses, there were some communication issues that we were having. We needed to get better at kind of talking to people on Kickstarter, and also just like the extended time that it took to come from officially launching it to delivery. And so we wanted to make something that we can kind of deliver on quickly, that's exciting and different and a little bit easier to kind of jump onto. And so, so we're really excited. People's response has been really strong. You can go right now to Kess.co to sign up for updates so that you can get alerted when the campaign goes on. There'll be more information as the weekend goes on. You'll see the drop dead dice around here. Something that is cool that we're planning on doing is kind of similar how Battle Bosses had, as more money was raised, more bosses were available, is I think we're going to do something similar where more of the different D20 or other D&D style dice are going to become available, right? So you have a D20, but there's D10s, there's D12s, D6s, D4s, and D8s.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sam. I can count by twos. And so the idea is to eventually have the full set, right? If we can raise enough money, that'll be really exciting. And I think I have a list somewhere of like ranking the order of popularity and usefulness within D&D of those different style of dice.
Somebody in the Twitch chat, BGX Mage, says spin down option for the MTG crowd ? So if you guys have suggestions on like stuff that you want to see from this Kickstarter, you should let us know. And Twitch chat is a fine way to do it, or on social media or wherever. We're at Kess Play on Instagram and Twitter and maybe Facebook. But
Yeah.
Or you can tweet at Alex if you are a follower of his stream or podcast or anything else from outside of, just being a person who found us through GenCon or through Battle Bosses. If you let us know, we are currently like working on putting this Kickstarter together because we're making sure that we ship out Battle Bosses before we do it. So the plan is to have Battle Bosses shipped out at the end of this year, and then early next year, February is the plan, is when we're going to be doing this Kickstarter. So if we get people's suggestions, and if we're seeing a lot of like, hey, we really want spin downs, or if we're seeing a lot of, hey, I want to make sure that I can get a giant D8 or whatever, right? I mean, we can take that into consideration when we're structuring our Kickstarter to make sure that we can get people what they want.
Right. And this page right here, which is kess.co/d20, will kind of continuously be updating with information as we get it. We might put a poll up there so people can vote which the next dice they'd want unlocked will be at some point, and other kind of content like that, so that there's kind of a continuous conversation about it. I will say that I'm leaning towards making sure that there is a countdown. So like for people who don't know, spin down D20s and totally random D20s is I believe a hot debate on what's the better thing to have in the world. And part of that is because for people that use D20s for life counters, so Magic the Gathering uses that and other games do as well, it's easier if as you go down the die, the next number is adjacent, so you can keep track of what your life total is or use it as kind of a countdown. But for randomization, it's not as strong as a regular D20 is.
Well, I mean, it depends on how you're rolling it, but people think that you can kind of manipulate your rolls a little bit easier if you know that like this quadrant of the die has all the high numbers. I can just kind of like and get it to roll on like an 18 to 20 or whatever.
Right.
So there are people who dispute the randomness, and yeah, I mean, we're definitely considering doing both ways. And for those of you who do not play Magic, I have to say that spin downs are useful just for counting from 1 to 20 in any game situation. Actually, when we were testing Battle Bosses, the bosses have 15 health, and throughout testing, before we got tokens produced, for minions and damage and energy and crystals, we were using just like random stuff we could find around the office as tokens. So some of it was like pieces from other games, and what we did for health was we would use the spin downs and just start it at 15 and then go down 14, 13, 12 or whatever, because you can just kind of move the die like 1 over to go to the next number, and it was convenient for keeping your Battle Bosses life total as well. So if you are a Battle Bosses fan who does not play Magic, a spin down or role-playing games or whatever, a spin down drop dots D20 you could just use to play Battle Bosses.
Yeah, and to be honest, we provided tokens for all the resources. We want to make sure that you don't need anything outside of the game to be able to play Battle Bosses for what's included. Right. But I totally expect for people to start using dice or pen and paper for a lot of the different kind of keeping tracking of and accounting in Battle Bosses. Just because there's some stuff that probably is just easier if you just use dice and
yeah, I mean, like a lot of people have their preferences. I mean, there are people in Magic who don't like to use dice to keep their life total. They prefer paper or an app or whatever, and it's just it's personal preference. But if you're a dice person, you can use dice to play Battle Bosses, and we can provide those dice.
Yep. And that's kind of the goal. And Soren on Periscope, of all of the different places we're currently streaming, which I think is just on Twitter, comments that it's really nice that we've acknowledged communication issues and excited to get Battle Bosses. Yeah, we apologize. I mean, part of the issue just has always been we wanted to make sure we updated with real content that's new, and then the problem with our kind of production path has been we'd have moments where a lot of stuff would come out, and then we'd want to like not release all of it at once. And so then we'd kind of try stringing that along, and then there'd be windows where just like no new content was happening. So we'd go back and forth on how quickly and unquickly we'd be updating content. Something I've realized going into the rest of the production schedule is that we're just going to start updating more often whenever we have anything to release, and try and be a little bit better at it. And also for future Kickstarters, being better at kind of communicating with our Kickstarter backers on a regular basis.
We've learned a lot from this Kickstarter, and I know like pretty much every first-time Kickstarter company is going to say that. They're going to say, we'll do better next time, and we learned a lot, but it's true. Yeah. I mean, from doing your first Kickstarter, you do learn a lot. It's like a whole new world for us, where like most of our toys and stuff, nobody's kickstarting a hula hoop, right? We're just going direct to retail. So this was like a totally new way of selling selling, our stuff, and we did learn a lot, and we're going to take that forward into the Drop.D20 Kickstarter and future Kickstarters for probably games and toys and everything else.
Yeah, and one of the balancing issues that we've definitely learned is that we wanted to make sure, and one of the reasons we're doing the D20, right, is that the balance between our spring summer business and making sure Kess survives and is healthy and continues is obviously extremely important and is a big priority. At the same time, we need to make sure that as we do the game line and other passion projects that are a part of the company, that we are communicating and launching that in a timely manner. And Battleboss has hit, A is a first time Kickstarter, plus hit multiple real world snags that were just things that we weren't expecting to happen. And so that always kind of was the big challenges that we were running into. And so we're excited. We're excited to get moving forward. Honestly, you have no idea how cool it is. I can even hear 1 second.
Oh boy.
Like, you have no idea how excited I am to have the fully painted sculpts in my hands and to show off and play with them. That Nightmare exists and looks as cool as he does. Now, this is the first paint ops, so things that will be different are his armor is very blue, so we ended up with, he looks like Spider-Man. Obviously, there are references to Spider-Man that we kind of came with him, so he... it leaned in a little too farther into that kind of Spider-Man look, so the armor is going to be closer to purple. It'll be like a dark metal-y purple, but this is kind of the first paint sculpts that we've gotten. Here's Ryu, and then
for those of you who have been following the Kickstarter, you'll see how many iterations it took to get to these sculpts.
Yes. And
not
so
Nightmare so much, since he was kind of like a later addition, but we had kind of really plain sculpts that were breaking, and we reinforced them in the right places, and while adding detail little by little, and then paint and
oh yeah,
and I'm really happy with how they turned out.
And we're so at noon we're going to do a production update where I'll show off all these sculpts. We're going to show the red molds that we have gotten, so that's the first step of tooling, and they're all gray, they're not painted, and we're going to walk through that. We'll even show some footage of early gameplay that has what the bosses originally looked like. I think I even have a Cthulhu here somewhere, or at least have his arm, of where we start with these kind of cool chibi figures, and then we've ended up in these really cool detailed sculpts and kind of the distance between those two games, and kind of going through all of that. So make sure to come back around noon today. That's the next time we're talking. We're going to have Sam, and then we'll also have Max, who kind of was the designer from a graphic perspective. I'm at Kess, and the manager of kind of all of our freelance artists that we worked with, and between the four of us, we'll have kind of a conversation on next steps and production updates and where we're going to next, and how the process of Battle Bosses happened. Where did we get started? And
that's noon Pacific time.
That is noon Pacific time.
Yes. Is in non-Pacific time zones, go ahead and adjust accordingly.
Yeah, so that'll be noon Pacific time. Also, this video, so this is live streamed to YouTube, and the way the Masters of Modern YouTube channel works is it saves this as a video. So we'll be, even if you miss the live streams, we'll be posting these videos to all of the different social media platforms that we're on, from Facebook to the Kickstarter to everywhere else. So there will be every stream we do will have that video then posted to our Kickstarter as well, so in updates. So there's going to be a lot of updates this weekend for Kickstarter people, so I apologize if that's a problem, but I think people want more from us, so I think that's a good thing. So we have people talking about True Dungeon. I don't know what True Dungeon is. Do you guys know what True? That's a reference.
Yeah.
That is
So at GenCon, it's an event that they do at GenCon. So it exists outside of GenCon, right? But GenCon is the big one, and it's they set up a dungeon in one of the exhibit halls that you go through as a party. It sells out immediately, right? But it's an event that you get tickets for or whatever. And you go through the dungeon, and it's like a kind of like a LARP situation.
Got it. Okay.
And you're rolling big dice and
cool,
and getting items that are have stats written on them or whatever.
It's they're saying it's escape room meets live action D&D.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there you go.
Got it.
Yeah, and you'll see people have like the tokens from them. People have them at like Magic tournaments a lot. They kind of look like they're like little cardboard things. They kind of look like Pogs.
Okay.
And people hang on to them and use them all over the place, and you know they'll have like their stat bonuses on them and stuff like that. It's very cute. It's really cool.
Got it.
But it's like something that Gen Con is known for. It's like the event at Gen Con that if you're going to go to Gen Con for the first time, you got to do it. And I've never done it. I've been to Gen Con a bunch of times. But it's hard to get tickets because it sells out so fast.
Right. Well, and like this has been the last 2 times I've gone to Gen Con, I've been sad because I think my favorite thing to do at Gen Con, and I'm still missing it, is there's the Werewolf on Tap area. So for those who don't know, there's a game called Werewolf where basically it's a social deduction game, and they have an entire hallway where if you paid like $12 for the entire weekend, you can just play unlimited games of Werewolf. So as soon as you're eliminated one game, you can just go to a next game that's starting, and kind of erases the big flaw of Werewolf, which is if you're playing with a single group, if you get killed, you're just done. You're no longer playing the game. And so literally it's my favorite thing.
It also erases the flaw for Alex, which is that in our group, nobody trusts him and everybody always thinks he's the werewolf and he always gets killed first. So his choices are be the narrator, which he's the narrator a lot, or play in the game and get killed like in the first 10 minutes.
Right.
So when he's playing with a bunch of strangers, that doesn't happen.
It ends up that when you're like the main person in your group of friends who are not all gamers, and you're the gamer who's introducing people to the game, they murder you. Also, my wife loves turning people against me.
Yeah, I'm a stealth gamer where I'm pretty good at werewolf, but people don't know who I am because they're mostly Alex's friends because he's usually hosting.
Whitney has learned though, so my wife has learned that Michael is actually the person she needs to kill almost more often than me because
I know the last game that I played with you and her, she was trying to convince everybody to kill me. And then me and the other werewolf convinced everybody to kill her instead, and then we won. Because nobody else suspected us after we got rid of Whitney.
Right. Yeah, in everyone's defense, my ratio of winning werewolf is very high when I survive past the first round. Because if I'm the werewolf, as long as people don't like totally out me as the werewolf, I'm like, because I'm not the best at lying if people are calling me on my calling me on it.
That's the hardest part of werewolf.
Yeah. But
flying under the radar is the easy part.
Right.
Potentially.
Now, but the werewolves avoid killing me. That's a mistake on their part. Also, like that's the other thing is like I can suss out werewolves. I know who you are.
Right. Yeah. Either if Alex is the werewolf, the townspeople are going to kill him quickly because they don't trust him, and if he's not a werewolf, the werewolves are going to kill him because the werewolves don't trust him.
Right. It's like it's suspect that I have not died, then the werewolves have not killed me.
Right. Because any smart werewolf would have just killed you first.
Right. So it's always a problem. So that's why I host generally, because then at least I don't have to get murdered. But at Gen Con, no one knows who I am. So
everybody is like into werewolf, right? So it's like more even ground anyway. It's not like you're the best werewolf player in the room because everybody is like passionate about werewolf.
Yeah, you like get people that like as a community are talking about actually what the chances of someone being a werewolf are, instead of you being like, no, this person's a werewolf. And they're like, well, how do you know that? Like, because I played this game 100 times, and I know that like the person who doesn't say anything, but then when it's called on it, like doesn't know how they react, or the way they're like, oh, who's the seer? Like anything like that. I'm like, okay. I have the read. It was really funny. So during COVID, now we're just talking about werewolf, but during COVID, we have been playing a lot of Jackbox, and there's a game called Push the Button, which is like basically werewolf Jackbox form, jackbox.tv, where you're trying to figure it out. And I forget who we were like playing with people at the office that we work with. We like did a company version of it. And like within like the first 2 rounds, I was able to like 100% figure out exactly who the 2 aliens were. And like
it was me and Whitney.
I thought it was Sarah Lynn too, or I thought Sarah Lynn was one of them.
It might have been a different night, but there was at least one night where it was me and Whitney, and after 2 rounds, you were like, "Sam and Whitney are the aliens."
Oh yes, yeah, it was you and Whitney. And
Alex, it's ridiculous. Like, we can go on for the rest of the 30-minute game, and at like 29:20, you get the vote through, and we got voted out into space, and lo and behold, you were right.
I forgot how I even did it. I think it was because the way that game works is there's like challenges, and just like both of you failed. Oh no, it was like one of you failed, but then the other person like after knowing that one of you was an alien, like chose to use their teammate in a way that was a good read. I don't know. It was great. I love that game too. I'm here for social deduction games. But yeah, so that's kind of it for I think this stream. We're now going on in an hour. Make sure to keep staying tuned. We'll be back at noon with kind of the production update schedule. We'll have kind of more of the Kess team, and we'll be going through. I'll have kind of set up just like different images from factory meetings and everything else to walk through kind of what the schedule looks like. And we'll also like kind of do other images. We'll like have the rulebook. Something that is new, so a new update for today. The rulebook is live, so if you go to kess.co/battlebosses or just battlebosses.com, the new updated rulebook is available to download. It has all of the arena rules in it, and so you can get kind of the full new updated production rulebook. So that's something also we got literally finalized last night. It was like the last piece of graphic elements that the factory needed to move forward on production. We wanted to make sure we needed to get everything else approved because it uses artwork from other parts of the game. Rulebooks are always last to get finalized. So that is now finalized officially as of GenCon. So you can get it now. You can download the rulebook. So thanks so much for everyone who's been hanging out in chat. We thank you for teaching me what True Dungeon is. Now I really want to do it, which is a problem because the other problem with Gen Con is because we have a booth at Gen Con every year, I don't get to do anything. But now we have people on Kess's team in a game, so maybe I'll be able to escape in future
True
years.
Dungeon has virtual tickets this year, but it's not True Dungeon if you're doing it online, right? Then it's like virtual
True Dungeon.
Fascinating.
Like the point of True Dungeon is that it's in person and you're there and you're like doing the dungeon, right? If it's virtual dungeon, that's different, right? Oh, interesting. Huh. So they have like,
So is it
That's
like
actually really cool? I haven't checked this out yet. I'm excited.
So
okay.
is it like, do they
that's
have like
significantly cooler than just like a Zoom call where it's like you're in a room. There's a fog machine.
Or you're just like playing like Dark Souls, or just like play a video game. Like here's Skyrim, here's a login account. You're playing True Dungeon.
That's cool.
Yeah,
I'm gonna check this
NPCs.
out
That's
during our break before noon.
And yeah, so I guess everyone that's watching the stream right now, make sure to sign up for the D20 Kickstarter. Go to kess.co/D20. We're excited to show you all this BattleBoss stuff. We're excited to do playthroughs, show you the new bosses, or the bosses, Alana and Nightmare. We're really excited about 2v2. So between 3v3 and 2v2 I think is actually my favorite. It plays like a 4-player game, and it's really fun, and so we're excited to finally show that to you guys at least once or twice this weekend. And we'll thank you so much for backing. And if you weren't part of the Kickstarter for BattleBosses and you're watching now and you want to be able to jump on board, it's available for pre-order right now on the website.
Link?
Yes.
You want to throw up the link one more time? Kess.co/shop is where you can pre-order BattleBosses. You can also check out other Kess products. We had to pick the ones that make sense for online shipping, so you can't just buy a straight up hula hoop there, but there is a box that comes with a bunch of stuff, including a collapsible hoop. So you can get, hoops, jump ropes, other games, battle bosses. We got a bunch of stuff. So check out kess.co/shop if you want to see our products and perhaps buy them.
Yep. And yes, there are dog crimes going on behind Michael.
Yes.
There's Peanut. He just showed up just in time for me announcing his presence. Look how majestic he is.
Peanut is a girl.
Oh, Peanut's a girl. I'm sorry.
I
should know that. I should. I apologize. She is majestic.
Yes. Yeah.
I think Whitney has yelled at me about this.
Yeah. I trapped her up on the bed so she doesn't cause a bunch of mischief while I'm on the live stream. She's not too happy about it, but
it's kind of perfect.
We'll take a walk after this.
Okay. All right. So yeah, we'll also be providing Peanut updates. She's going to have a fun Gen Con weekend as well, showing up on all of the streams. The other thing is so the production update is new, and the other big one to pay attention to is tomorrow we're doing a big kind of the history of BattleBosses walkthrough as in a podcast format with the Cast, which will be including Ben Bateman. It'll be me, Michael, and Ben. So that's the other thing that's happening. So live Cast emergency thing on Friday. Hi, Jen.
Jen, you're on stream.
Oh, hello.
And yeah, so I'm going to. I think that's it for the stream right now. We'll be back on in a bit. I think what we're gonna do is just leave up the stream. So if people have questions and want to hang out and chat, we're gonna leave that up. So there'll be kind of a schedule.
We also have a Battle Bosses Discord that we'll be checking throughout the weekend.
Oh yeah, let me ship a link to the
If you want
Discord.
to put the link for that,
actually, can
if
you
the
do
stream
that,
isn't up and you want
Sam?
to chat with us, if you have any questions about Battle Bosses or drop.d20s or anything, feel free to ask us in the Discord.
Yep.
We will be checking it throughout the weekend because we expect that, people who missed streams or whatever will have questions, and no problem. We'll answer them in the Discord.
Yep.
And I just put a link for that Discord in chat. And I don't know, I don't want to speak for you guys, but I'm available on Twitter as well at strat_Sam. And if you guys, if you think of a question and you want to just add us really quickly on Twitter so that we can cover it in the next stream, we can totally do that.
Yep, at Kess Wiley, that's me. If you look at the Twitch stream that you're on right now, that'll be where to find me. People are wanting to know when the Peanut stream is. I think it's all weekend. I mean, every time Michael is scheduled to be on a call, it's a Peanut stream.
Yeah, somewhat. That is Javier. We know him.
Oh, okay. Hi, Javier. Yeah, no.
You can see Peanut later.
So thanks everyone for watching, and we'll just keep the live stream. I'm going to turn the schedule on and sound off and all that stuff, and then the next thing will be the production update, which will be kind of in this format as well. Thanks everyone. We'll talk to you guys all weekend. Battle Bosses, stay tuned. It's going to be great.
See you in a couple hours. Thanks everybody. Bye.
Yeah.
Mic off.